Chapter 1. Killing him should be easy. He's only 6. Then why the bilious, twisting feeling deep in her gut? Why the cold, clammy dampness down her back? He's only 6. Billy waded through the tall, spiny grass towards the back of the park. The autumnal night wind whispered to her, down here in the pit. What name for a playground? But no one had played here, hadn't for years. The low fence around it had long since fallen, leaving rotten planks jutting out of the earth like crooked black teeth. The animal rockers watched her with blank, hollow eyes. Their old springs creaked as they nodded their heads in greeting. The boy sat on the swing, the middle one of 3. Only 6. Billy approached with a mag light in her hand, its beam aided by the full moon and the red lights of Crystal Palace radio aerial. It loomed over her like a giant black spike, stabbing the sky. The rusty chains groaned as he swayed back and forth, watching her. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's just a normal kid. Maybe I don't have to murder him. He looked normal. Tatty Nike trainers, a pair of jeans with elasticated waist, a Crystal Palace top, a local boy. Normal, except for the marks on his neck. His white throat was bound by dark purple bruises. Billy drew a long, deep breath and crossed over the fence boundary, her heart hammering hard against her ribs. The playground was gravel and scattered with litter, old canned, mouldy newspapers and brittle brown leaves that had blown down from the skeletal trees on the top of the hill. All the signs were here of a desolation, a place of evil. Innocent blood had been spilt, tainting the soil itself. Billy thought if she dared to listen, she might still hear the dying screams echoing in the wind and the leaves rustling with a child's last breath. The few flowers and weeds that had broken through were grey and malformed. Beetles, glossy black, scuttled their armoured bodies over the stones, and fat white worms writhed under her feet. "Hello," said the boy. "Hello," said Billy. The boy looked at her. He was missing a lower front tooth, just like the photo. I could still be wrong. But with each step closer, she knew she wasn't. It was the bruises. The mark still held impressions of fingers even after all this time. "Have you come to play?" he asked. Look into his eyes. That's what they'd told her. Wasn't it one of the first lessons she'd learnt in the order? The windows of the soul. She'd often stared at her own black orbs, wondering what really lay through them. Maybe only more darkness. The boy got off the swing. He looked up at her, catching the moon full on his plump, gap-toothed face. His eyes shone like mirrors. Billy stared at them, into them. There's nothing there, just empty reflection. It's him. "I'm sorry, Alex. I've come to take you back." "How do you know my name?" What didn't she know about him? She'd read the old newspapers, trawled through the library archives for a week. She'd even watched the faded 8mm home movie, a flickering, yellow-tinged illusion of life on a white bedsheet. Alexander Weeks, 6 years old, pupil at St Christopher's Primary School. Last seen, 1970. "But I've only just got here. I'm to see my mummy." Only son of Jennifer and Paul Weeks. Billy remembered them sitting with her dad in the church, showing him their old photo album, telling him of how they still dreamed of Alex even now, telling him of how they saw his face outside their windows some nights. "I know you do, Alex, but you can't stay here." She'd argued she was only 15, a year below age, but her dad had insisted. It was time. The ordeal. Her last test before she was initiated into the order. And no one argued with Arthur Sangreal. She'd expected some hot meat, a fight, lots of sound and fury. She'd thought there'd be a duel against one of the real unholy. Loony, fang-face, maybe even an infernal. Not this. Not killing a little kid. Billy took another step. "Why? It's not fair!" The swings either side of him rattled on their chains, agitated. Billy tensed. Goosebumps crept along her arms, even under her fleece. Alex radiated coldness. "I know, son." Billy spun around. Her father strode over the broken fence and walked towards them. He wore his suit, his one and only suit. dark blue and shiny with wear. In his left hand he held the scabbard, in his right a sword. 1.5 metres long, its pommel was a thick iron disc bearing the order's symbol. 2 knights on a single horse. The broad blade gleamed ghost silver in the moonlight. It was a brutal weapon, made for hacking. The boy looked at him. "Have you come to kill me too?" Arthur smiled. But it was tired and wan, and there was no gentleness in his icy blue eyes. "No, lad, you know I can't." He glanced at Billy. "You're already dead." "It's not fair!" The swings were thrashing and clanging now. The roundabout creaked into life, turning slowly, grinding its rusty axle against its corroded socket. "The man said I could feed the birds. The man said he's been punished for what he did," said Arthur. "Is he in hell?" asked Alex. "I promise you he is." The boy wailed. "I didn't want to die." He held up his hands. "Please, Billy, let me stay." Tears dribbled down his face and his chin wrinkled in misery. "It's dark and I'm alone." He stepped nearer, begging, "Please, he's just a little boy." "No, Billy!" shouted Arthur, but too late. Billy dropped to her knees and embraced Alex. The chill seeps into her pores, saturating her skin with ice. Like venom, black ichor floods her veins, pumping her with Alex's despair, envy, and hate. Hate that he was snatched from the sunlight and crushing fingers in the dirt and fallen leaves, never to feel the warmth he misses so much. And he sucks it from her, leaving only coldness that is brittle bone deep, sucks the air from her lungs, and her flesh blisters as she stares into Alex's eyes, black and malice-filled, remembering only the agony that he cannot forget, an abysmal virus he can't contain, so she must suffer like he did. And the cold burns her heart as he burrows deeper, clawing at her to join him in darkness, far, far. Powerful fingers dug deep into Billy's shoulders and ripped her free. Arthur tossed her away from the boy, and she tumbled in the gravel, slamming down hard on her cheek. Possession. It had tried to possess her. It wasn't Alex. Not anymore. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't bend. They felt as brittle as icicles. "Billy!" shouted Arthur. There was a loud crack as the wooden swing seat broke apart, and 2 loose chains lashed out. Billy ducked as one whipped out over her, but Arthur took a blow across his forehead. The sword flew away. He stumbled and was lifted off the ground as a chain wrapped itself round his neck and tightened. "Let him go!" screamed Billy. She bent forward, hoisting herself